Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the ENS Dauntless, watching the stars on the main screen. Earth's first deep space fleet moved slowly through the darkness. 20 ships, the best humanity could build, were now far from home. "Sir, we're approaching the edge of Keldaran space," said Lieutenant Park. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed worry. Kim nodded. This mission would change everything. After discovering faster-than-light travel 10 years ago, humans had finally met other beings among the stars. Most were peaceful, but the Keldaran hegemony controlled hundreds of star systems with an iron grip. "Any signs they've noticed us?" Kim asked. "Nothing yet, sir," replied Officer Bay from the sensor station. "But our information says they patrol this—" He stopped suddenly. "Sir, 5 large ships just appeared on long-range sensors." The bridge crew froze. The ships on the screen were massive, at least 3 times larger than the Dauntless. "They're scanning us," Park reported. "And now they're powering weapons." Kim stood taller. "Open communications. All channels." The main screen flickered, showing a being with gray skin, 6 blinking eyes, and a mouth full of small, sharp teeth. "Primitive vessels," the alien said, voice clicking, oddly. "You have entered hegemony space. Identify yourselves before we destroy your weak fleet." "I am Admiral Kim of Earth's exploration fleet. We come in peace and seek friendly relations with your people." The Keldaran made a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "Peace? Diplomacy? These are tools for equals. You are not our equals." Without warning, bright beams shot from the lead Keldaran ship, striking one of the smaller human vessels. It exploded instantly. "Evasive action," Kim shouted. "All ships, defensive formation Delta." The human fleet scattered in different directions. To the Keldarans, it looked like panic. "Return fire," Kim ordered. The Dauntless shook as its main guns fired. The shots hit the Keldaran shield, creating blue ripples but no damage. Another human ship exploded. Then another. "Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they're not even there," reported Captain Lee, gripping the console as the ship shook again. Kim watched as his crew worked frantically. The Keldarans clearly had better technology, but something interesting was happening. The human ships were adapting, learning from each hit, adjusting their shields and movements. "Sir, I've noticed a pattern in their firing sequence," said Tactical Officer Choi. "If we time our movements—" "Do it," Kim ordered. The Dauntless suddenly changed course, moving in a way that seemed random. The next Keldaran blast missed completely. "Send this pattern to all remaining ships," Kim said. As the human fleet began moving in new, unpredictable ways, the Keldarans had more trouble hitting them. But Kim knew they couldn't win this fight. "We need to retreat," Captain Lee said quietly. "We've lost 7 ships already." Kim nodded grimly. "All vessels, prepare for emergency jump to rally point Omega on my mark." The remaining ships turned away from the battle. 3 more were destroyed before they could escape, but 10, including the Dauntless, managed to jump to safety. In the quiet after the jump, Kim looked at his tired crew. "We'll remember those we lost today, and we'll learn from this." Meanwhile, on the Keldaran command ship, Fleet Commander Zox reported to the High Council via hologram. "The humans posed no real threat," he said confidently. "Their ships are weak, their weapons primitive." The council members clicked in agreement, except for Science Elder Rowe, who watched the battle recordings carefully. "Notice something unusual," Rowe said, pointing to the screen. "Watch how the human ships moved at first, then see how they changed." The council members watched as the human fleet's movements became more complex and harder to predict as the battle went on. "They adapted during battle," Rowe explained. "No species we've encountered does this. They learned from our attacks and changed their strategy immediately." "It makes no difference," said Zox. "They are still far behind us." Rowe wasn't convinced. "Perhaps, but they think differently. They don't follow fixed patterns like other species." "Are you suggesting these humans are dangerous?" asked a council member with disbelief. "I am suggesting," Rowe said slowly, "that we should study them more before we dismiss them." As the council argued, Admiral Kim was already meeting with his officers. "On the Dauntless, we need to understand their technology and tactics," he said firmly. And we need to prepare. They'll come looking for Earth now. What chance do we have against ships like that? Asked a young officer. Kim looked at the tactical display showing the battle they had just lost. But he had seen something important. Humans could adapt faster than the Keldarans. They're stronger, he admitted. But we're smarter, and sometimes that's enough. 6 months passed since the first battle with the Keldarans. Earth's fleet had grown stronger. Engineers worked day and night to improve their ships based on what they learned from that first encounter. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the new flagship ENS Resilient. It wasn't as big as a Keldaran warship, but it had better shields and weapons than before. Admiral, long-range sensors detect a large fleet heading toward Proxima Centauri colony, said Lieutenant Park, her eyes fixed on her screen. Kim frowned. Proxima Centauri was Earth's first colony beyond the solar system. 200,000 people lived there. How many ships? He asked. 200 Keldaran vessels, sir, Park replied. They're calling it a cleansing fleet. The bridge went quiet. Earth only had 40 warships ready for battle. They expect us to fight the same way we did before, Kim said finally. That will be their mistake. He called a meeting with all his ship captains. Instead of giving them one battle plan, he gave each captain different orders. Some would attack directly, others would hide and strike later. Each captain could make their own decisions if things changed. Commander Han, Kim's second-in-command, looked worried. Sir, this goes against all standard battle tactics. That's exactly why it will work, Kim replied. The Keldarans expect us to fight like they do, with one central plan. They don't understand how humans think. 3 days later, the human fleet waited at Proxima Centauri. The colony had been evacuated to underground shelters. The 40 human ships looked small against the black of space. Tactical Officer Choi monitored, her station on the Resilient. The Keldaran fleet has arrived, sir. They're forming their standard attack pattern. The main screen showed the Keldaran ships, huge gray vessels moving into a perfect formation. Their flagship transmitted a message. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Admiral Kim smiled slightly. Begin Operation Chaos. The human fleet suddenly split into 12 separate groups, each moving in different directions. The Keldarans hesitated, confused by this strange tactic. They're waiting for orders from their commander, Han observed. Their ships don't act independently. Deploy the drones, Kim ordered. Thousands of small drones launched from the human ships. Some sent out false signals that confused Keldaran sensors. Others looked like warships on their scanners. The Keldaran fleet tried to adjust, but they moved. Slowly, their formation breaking apart as they tried to target multiple threats at once. Captain Bay of the ENS Defiant saw an opening and took it without waiting for orders. His small group of ships darted between 2 large Keldaran vessels and fired at their engines. Sir, the Defiant group is off plan, reported a communications officer. Kim nodded. Good. Captain Bay saw an opportunity and took it. The Keldaran commander struggled to respond to the chaotic human attacks. His ships were designed to fight in specific ways, with each vessel having a set role. When humans didn't follow expected patterns, the Keldarans couldn't adjust quickly enough. 3 hours into the battle, the Resilient shook from a direct hit. Shields at 40%, Choi reported. Move us behind the moon, Kim ordered. We'll repair and rejoin. As the Resilient moved away, Captain Yoon's ships took its place, attacking from a new angle the Keldarans weren't expecting. From his hidden position, Kim watched the battle on his screens. The human ships moved like dancers, never staying in one place, never following a pattern the Keldarans could predict. They communicated with each other directly, changing plans as needed. By the 6th hour, 60 Keldaran ships had been destroyed, or disabled. The humans had lost only 8. The remaining Keldaran vessels are retreating, Han announced, surprise in his voice. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Kim raised his hand for quiet. We won today not because we had better ships, he said, but because we have something the Keldarans don't understand. Independent thinking. Later in his quarters, Kim received reports from his captains. Some had followed their orders exactly. Others, like Captain Bay, had changed plans when they saw better options. Captain Yoon's message made Kim smile. I improvised with my squad when I saw the enemy's flank was exposed. Hope that was okay. This was the human advantage. The ability to think independently, to adapt quickly, to see opportunities and take them without waiting for orders. On the Keldaran command ship, Fleet Commander Zox tried to explain their defeat to the angry High Council. They fought like no species we've ever seen, he said. Each ship acted differently. We couldn't predict their movements. Science Elder Rowe nodded slowly. As I feared, they don't think like us. Each human is capable of independent decisions. How? Do we fight an enemy like that? Asked a council member. Rowe had no answer. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Keldaran hegemony faced something they didn't understand, and it terrified them. News of the human victory at Proxima Centauri spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Keldaran rule for centuries began to whisper about the small planet called Earth and its strange inhabitants who had done the impossible. Dr. John moved carefully around the medical bay of the ENS Resilient, studying the injured Keldaran officer they had captured during the battle. The alien lay on the examination table, its 6 eyes watching her every move. I won't hurt you, she said gently, though she wasn't sure the translator conveyed her tone correctly. I just want to understand. Admiral Kim entered the medical bay. What have you learned, Doctor? Dr. Jian pointed to the brain scans displayed on her screen. Look at these neural structures, Admiral. They're fascinating. The Keldaran brain has multiple connection points that link to others of their kind. Like a hive mind? Kim asked. Not exactly. They still have individual thoughts, but they're naturally wired to think collectively. Acting alone causes them actual physical discomfort. She pulled up another image. And here's the interesting part. I've analyzed the medical data we have on other spacefaring species. They all show similar structures. Kim looked closely at the images. All of them? What about humans? That's just it, Dr. John said excitedly. Human brains don't have these structures at all. We evolved as individual hunters and gatherers who work together by choice, not biological necessity. The Admiral thought about this. So when our captains made independent decisions during battle, the Keldarans couldn't understand it, Dr. John finished. To them, it would be like watching your fingers decide to do different things without your brain telling them to. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from the bridge. Admiral, you're needed immediately. We have visitors. When Kim arrived on the bridge, Commander Han pointed to the main screen. A ship unlike any they had seen before waited in space, near Earth. It was beautiful, like a crystal with many facets that caught the sunlight in rainbow patterns. They call themselves the Varaxian Collective, Han explained. Another major power in this sector. They've requested a meeting. 2 hours later, Kim sat across from the Varaxian ambassador in Earth's main diplomatic hall. The alien was tall and thin with skin that seemed to shimmer like its ship. It spoke in a musical voice that the translators turned into smooth, perfect English. We have watched with great interest your conflict with the Keldarans, the ambassador said. No species has defeated them in battle for 3,000 years. We were lucky, Kim replied modestly. The Varaxian made a sound like gentle bells, which Kim guessed was laughter. There is no luck in war, Admiral Kim. There is only skill and understanding. You fought in a way the Keldarans could not comprehend, and why have you come to Earth? Kim asked directly. To propose an alliance. The Keldarans have been our enemies for millennia. Together, we could end their dominance in this part of the galaxy. The offer seemed good. The Varaxians had advanced technology that humans could learn from. Yet something about the ambassador's 2 perfect words made Kim uneasy. After the meeting, First Officer Kang approached Kim as they walked through the corridor. They're planning to use us as shock troops, aren't they? She asked quietly. Kim nodded. I believe so. They see us as useful weapons, not equals. Should we refuse the alliance? No, Kim said thoughtfully. We'll accept, but carefully. They want to use us to fight their enemy, but we'll use the opportunity to learn their technology. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Keldaran defeat had started something no one expected. On a distant mining planet, Keldaran guards were surprised when usually obedient workers refused orders. On another world, a species that had been conquered centuries ago began to whisper the word Earth like a prayer. The Keldaran High Council called an emergency meeting. Science Elder Zhou stood before them, his old face grave. "The situation is worse than we feared," he said. "Stories about the human victory are spreading throughout our territories. Subject species are beginning to resist." "Impossible," shouted a council member. "One small defeat cannot undo centuries of control." "You don't understand," Zhou replied. "These species have always believed they had no choice but to obey. Now they've seen that the hegemony can be defeated. Hope is spreading, and hope is more dangerous than any weapon." On a secret Keldaran military base, officers reviewed recordings of the battle at Proxima Centauri. They watched in confusion as human ships broke formation, acted independently, and adapted quickly to new situations. "How do they coordinate without central control?" asked one officer. "They don't," replied the base commander. "Each ship captain makes decisions based on the situation. They call it initiative and creativity." The officers looked troubled. These concepts had no direct translation in their language. Back on Earth, Admiral Kim received reports of the growing unrest in Keldaran space. He also received an encrypted message from a species called the Midorians, who had been under Keldaran control for 500 years. "We have watched how you fight," the message read. "Please teach us." Kim showed the message to Dr. Jian. "It seems our victory had bigger effects than we expected." Dr. John nodded. "We didn't just win a battle, Admiral. We showed them something they've never seen before, the power of independent thinking." As Earth prepared for the next Keldaran attack, which would surely come, Kim couldn't help but wonder what other ripples their small victory had created across the stars. Chief Engineer Shin hardly slept for 3 days. She worked in her lab aboard the new ship ENS Unconventional, Earth's latest achievement in space technology. The ship looked strange compared to other human vessels. Its shape changed slightly every few minutes, its outer hull shifting like liquid metal. "Are you still working on that program?" Captain Ryu asked as he entered the lab. He carried 2 cups of coffee and placed one beside Shin. "Almost done," she replied, taking the cup gratefully. "The Chaos Protocol is nearly ready." Captain Ryu looked at the complex code on her screen. "Will it really work against their targeting systems?" Shin nodded confidently. "The Keldarans rely on pattern recognition. Their computers look for known shapes and movements. This program makes our ships move in ways that seem random to them, but are actually following precise plans that only we understand." "Like jazz music," Ryu said with a smile. "It sounds chaotic to some people, but musicians hear the patterns." "Exactly," Shin agreed. "A technological symphony that only humans can follow." Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. Admiral Kim's face appeared on the communication screen. "The Keldaran Dread Fleet has been spotted moving toward the Orion Spur," he announced gravely. 300 capital ships. They've never lost a battle." Ryu's face paled. Earth's fleet now had 70 ships thanks to rapid building and the help of Voraxian technology, but they were still greatly outnumbered. "How long do we have?" Ryu asked. 5 days, Kim replied. "All captains will meet tomorrow for briefing." After the call ended, Shin turned to Ryu with determination in her eyes. "I need to finish this now. The Chaos Protocol might be our only chance." 4 days later, the human fleet waited at the Orion Spur, a narrow region of space that the Keldarans would have to pass through to reach Earth. The ENS Unconventional took position at the front of the fleet, alongside Admiral Kim's flagship. "All ships' final systems check," Kim ordered over the communication channel. "Remember your training, but trust your instincts. That's something they cannot predict." The human fleet formed a traditional defensive pattern, similar to what the Keldarans would expect. It was a trap. Soon the Keldaran Dread Fleet appeared, massive ships that darkened the stars behind them. Their commander's voice boomed across all channels. "Humans of Earth, your defeat at Proxima Centauri was a lucky accident. The Dread Fleet has conquered 1,000 worlds. Surrender now." Admiral Kim gave no reply. Instead, he sent a simple signal. Begin chaos protocol. Immediately, Shin's program activated across all human ships. Their engines fired in complex patterns, breaking the neat formation and scattering in what looked like panic to Keldaran eyes. They're running away, the Keldaran commander said confidently. But they weren't running. Each human ship moved according to Shin's careful calculations, appearing random while actually creating openings for attack. The unconventional led a small group that darted between two massive Keldaran battlecruisers. The enemy ships fired but missed as the human vessels moved in unexpected ways. Their targeting systems can't lock on us, Ryu reported excitedly to Admiral Kim. Shin's program is working. For hours the battle raged. Human ships danced around, the larger Keldaran vessels, striking quickly and moving away before the enemy could respond effectively. The Keldarans tried to adjust, but each time they thought they found a pattern, the human ships would change again. But the Dread Fleet was powerful. Despite the humans' clever tactics, their smaller ships began taking heavy damage. Admiral, we've lost 15 ships already, Commander Han reported from the flagship's bridge. The unconventional shields are failing. Kim watched the battle with grim determination. It's time for Plan Omega. Captain Ryu received the coded message on the unconventional. He looked at his damaged ship's controls, then at his loyal crew. Admiral, my ship is critically damaged, he reported. Permission to execute Protocol Omega? There was a pause before Kim's voice came through. Permission granted, old friend. Ryu turned to his crew. Prepare evacuation pods. You have 3 minutes. As the crew rushed to the escape pods, Ryu and Shin stayed on the bridge, preparing the ship's final act. The core is set to overload, Shin confirmed. It will look like a catastrophic explosion. Across the battlefield, 15 other damaged human ships were doing the same thing. As their crews escaped in small, hard-to-detect pods, the ships' cores were prepared for controlled overloads. The Keldaran commander watched with satisfaction as the unconventional and other human ships began to explode in spectacular bursts of light and energy. The explosions created massive electromagnetic pulses that temporarily blinded Keldaran sensors. We've broken their resistance, he announced to the Dread Fleet. Continue forward to Earth. Victory is ours. What the Keldarans didn't notice was that during the confusion of the explosions and sensor blackouts, 30 human warships had disappeared from the battlefield completely. The Keldaran Dread Fleet moved toward Earth, celebrating their apparent victory. In their arrogance, they never thought to look behind them, where the missing human ships had used the chaos to jump to a different location entirely. Those ships, led by Admiral Kim, who had transferred to a smaller vessel before his flagship was sacrificed, were now on their way to the Keldaran homeworld. The Keldaran homeworld sparkled like a jewel in space. Beautiful cities covered its surface, lit up in celebration. The High Chancellor addressed cheering crowds from a grand balcony of the Central Command Tower. The human threat has been eliminated, he announced proudly. Our Dread Fleet has crushed their pathetic forces. The galaxy will remember this day as... His speech was interrupted by an aide who rushed to his side, whispering urgently in his ear. The Chancellor's 6 eyes widened in shock. Impossible, he whispered. High above the planet, 30 human warships appeared suddenly from hyperspace. They positioned themselves in a perfect circle around the Keldaran homeworld, weapons ready, but not firing. In the command center below the balcony, Keldaran officers scrambled in panic. How did they get here? One shouted. The Dread Fleet destroyed them. Our planetary defenses? Another asked desperately. Not ready, came the reply. We didn't expect an attack here. All our forces are with the Dread Fleet. The main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. Admiral Kim's face appeared calm and serious. This is Admiral Kim of Earth. I wish to speak with your High Chancellor. Minutes later, the Chancellor stood before the screen, trying to hide his fear. How are you here? Our fleet destroyed you at the Orion Spur. You saw what we wanted you to see, Kim replied simply. Those explosions you celebrated? They were controlled and carefully timed to mask our jump signatures. While your sensors were blinded, we slipped away. The Chancellor's voice shook slightly. But the casualties. No commander would sacrifice so many ships as a diversion. Kim's expression remained steady. We didn't sacrifice anyone. Those ships were evacuated. The explosions were calculated to appear catastrophic while allowing our actual fleet to position itself here, at your homeworld. Science Elder Zhou stepped forward, beside the Chancellor. I warned the Council about humans, he said quietly. You think differently than any species we've encountered. We do, Kim agreed. And now we have your homeworld surrounded, while your dread fleet is too far away to help. The Keldaran Chancellor stared at Kim through the screen. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. Not of weapons or death, but of something he couldn't understand. The human mind. What are your terms? He asked finally. The surrender ceremony took place 3 days later in the Great Hall of Unity on the Keldaran homeworld. Representatives from across the galaxy attended, including many species that had suffered under Keldaran rule for centuries. Admiral, Kim stood calm and dignified as the High Chancellor signed the peace treaty. The terms were fair. The Keldarans would release all conquered worlds and pay reparations, but they would keep their homeworld and nearby colonies. Humans didn't seek to destroy them, only to end their empire. After signing, the Chancellor addressed the assembled representatives. For 10,000 years, the Keldaran hegemony ruled the stars. We believed our technology and numbers made us invincible. He paused, looking directly at Kim. We were wrong. We feared human weapons, but should have feared human minds. The Chancellor raised his voice so all could hear. They do not think as we do. Each human is capable of independent thought and action that our species can barely comprehend. Where we see order, they see opportunity. Where we follow patterns, they create new paths. In the following months, a new galactic order emerged. The freed worlds formed their own alliances and governments. Some asked for human advisors to help them learn to think more independently. 1 year after the surrender, Admiral Kim visited a military academy on a neutral world. Aliens of many species now studied there, including young Keldarans. Their instructor, a former Keldaran officer, was teaching a class about battle tactics. The key to victory is not always superior firepower, the instructor was saying. Sometimes it's the ability to think in ways your enemy cannot predict. On the screen before the class, a simulation showed a small fleet defeating a larger one by using unexpected movements and tactics. This is what humans taught us, the instructor continued. For too long, our species relied on fixed patterns and central control. We forgot how to adapt. A young student raised a hand. How can we learn to think like humans? The instructor noticed Kim standing in the doorway and gestured for him to answer. Kim stepped forward, looking at the eager faces of the alien students. You don't need to think exactly like humans, he said. Each species has its own strengths. But you can learn to value individual thinking alongside collective action. Both have their place. After the class, the instructor walked with Kim through the academy halls. The highest praise a strategist can receive now is, "You think like a human," he told Kim. "It means you're unpredictable, creative." Kim smiled slightly. "And is that why alien armadas fear human warships? Not our weapons, but our minds." "Exactly," the instructor replied. "You showed us something we had forgotten. That true strength comes from here." He touched his head. "Not from the size of your fleet or the power of your weapons, but from how you use them." As Kim prepared to return to Earth, he looked out at the stars. Humanity had earned its place among them not through conquest, but by showing the galaxy a different way of thinking. The reason alien armadas feared human warships wasn't their technology. It was the unpredictable, creative, independent minds controlling them. And that was something that could never be copied or overcome.